Walking Stick Library presents the Nanoparticle Show with your librarian hostess with the mostest, Eileen Kramer.
Now, we're switching topics yet again. I'm going to put the curtain back up. Okay, we're switching topics yet again because there was more to that gish gallop from our friend Dr. Michelia. She was talking about self-assembling nanoparticles. Now, normally this would have gone right by me. It didn't. And the reason it didn't was that we were doing some of those chemistry articles for the workflow project. We were doing the workflow videos not that long ago, and I have them all recorded. I should probably edit them because there's a couple places I go way off track. And they're long. This is such a long form video, which I kind of like because you kind of learn to stick with it. Emmanuel, you are so beautiful. Yes, you are. You want to come visit? You want to come visit? Come on up. So you have to talk to them very softly. He's a good boy. He's my good boy. Yes, he is. So anyway, my camera's having trouble getting both of us together on screen because I have a background remover running. But anyway, one of the things I saw when we went back and looked at one of the articles was that the nanoparticles were self-assembling. That didn't mean they made more nanoparticles and gave birth to, What they were doing was putting themselves together nicely without a lot of fancy chemical processes and without a lot of intervention, so they could be made in big scale. If that's what it means, it's not a problem, right? So we need to get a good definition of a self-assembling nanoparticle, because it'll be a lot less scary if we know what the heck it is. Okay, let's open the curtain and let's minimize, and what we are going to do is probably start with a good old-fashioned Google search and hope we find what we need. I need more space. Let's go to 100. Okay, what we're looking for is, and I am going to use the circles. Lumpy. Lumpy and bumpy. I love the way they smooth themselves out. Lumpy and bumpy. What we're looking for is, and I'm going to take us down to 30, I'd say 40 here. Make some space for that guy. And we want a definition. And we're going to run this in Google. As I just want a basic definition. If it shows up in Wikipedia, great. We know Wikipedia does get fact-checked eventually. It is good for fairly basic things. We are looking for this lovely overlap right here. Okay, let me get a Google page. And we're going to look for self-assembling nanoparticles and definition. That's ACS Publications. Again, I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. I'm going to take the definition off and hope we get into, well, I'm going to get to Wikipedia. That often gives definitions. And again, I'm not seeing it. Okay, I'm going to use this because I think this may be a good biological self-assembling particle, science.gov. Okay, let's see if we can get a good definition out of this. Cancer is one of the big causes of mortality. The major aim of most nanocarrier applications has been to protect the drug from degradation after systemic delivery and allowing it to reach the tumor site at therapeutic concentrations, meanwhile avoiding drug delivery to normal sites as much as possible to reduce adverse effects. These nanocarriers are formulated to deliver drugs either by passive targeting, taking advantage of leaky tumor vasculature, or by active targeting using ligands that increase tumoral uptake, potentially resulting in anti-tumor efficacy, thus achieving net improvement in therapeutic index. The rational design of nanoparticles plays a critical role since structural physical characteristics such as size, charge, shape, and surface characteristics determine the biodistribution, pharmacokinetics, internalization, and safety of drugs. Okay, let's look for self-assembling. Liposomes are self-assembling nanoparticles formed by the dispersion of phospholipids with hydrophilic heads and hydrophobic tails. You all remember what a soap particle looks like from your Regents chemistry? These things get together with their tails in the middle and their heads on the outside, so that creating closed membrane structures, figure 2. Hydrophilic agents such as drugs, as silicon RNA or hydrophobic drugs, can be incorporated into the inner compartments and into the hydrophobic membranes, respectively. So either one. Currently, several liposomal anti-cancer drugs are being considered. And this is the picture. This isn't the picture I wanted. There's a much better one. So this doesn't mean they have babies. It means that they are easy to produce. Do I have more here? Polymeric micelles are formed from self-assembly of amphiphilic block copolymers, ranging from 10 to 100 nanometers in size. So this does not mean they have babies. It means they are easy to make. They are composed of a hydrophobic core and a hydrophilic corona. Micelles can improve bioavailability of hydrophobic drugs because they have to travel in the bloodstream that is mostly water, confer protection and inactivation of drugs under the effect of their biological surroundings. Polymeric micelle formulations are used for both passive and active targeting in anti-cancer therapy. So self-assembling nanoparticles are something that forms easily. It doesn't mean that it makes babies and and it makes a big machine in your blood. And the really great picture of this, if we had it in Medline, was, let me get Medline again real quick. You don't need it that small. None of us does. Let me get Medline back, because this was the one we were using to do the paper. In fact, I probably have the article in the paper. Why don't I get it? Yeah, the paper's still parked here. Let me get Microsoft. Oh, if it'll ever let me. Oh, where's my Borg? Word. We can get it out of the Word document we used. Okay, I'm sore and annual. I'm sorry, I have to move my legs to get stiff. We will be getting a desk. I won't be sitting on a cushion Indian style on the floor, which is how I've been doing this. Okay, phototherapy 1A had the article. Okay, sources go here. This was Yan. This was that long, hard one, but it had a great picture. So we're going to get the great picture. Yes, we're going to access through Georgia State University. And over here we have the great picture. And this is a self-assembling nanoparticle. The hydrophobic guys are in the middle, the hydrophilic guys are on the outside. You can see this over here, this green part's hydrophilic. The orange part is hydrophobic, it hides in here. The iron particles are stuck in the middle, the very middle. They're not soluble either. And then these go out into the bloodstream and head to the tumor site. Round we go. So this is what you are seeing here. Sugars on the outside, sugar and protein polymer on the outside, hydrophobic, porphyrin here, iron particles in the middle. And these things form up naturally because some parts of this are hydrophobic and some are hydrophilic, so they self-assemble, which means they assemble easily. So we've got one. This is the example that they use. And we know this because they talk about self-assembling. And here it is. So this has to do with synthesizing them, not with them making babies. Specifically, the hydrophobic photosynthesizer BPD was covalently conjugated to that big long anine molecule with the sugars. And they call it a dendron copolymer. We saw the picture forming the amphiphilic. So the head likes to be out in the water, the tail does not. The head is soluble in the water, the tail is not. Emmanuel, if you're going to bite me, you can leave. Go cool off somewhere. It wasn't even a bad bite. I mean, I don't like it. That can self-assemble into nanometer-sized micelles. So it just means it assembles easily in the lab. To implant additional imaging capabilities, we put the iron on the inside and away it goes. And here's a picture of that. So it's a big thing, but it's not self-replicating. Once it gets inside you, it does not make more particles. It just goes to the right place. But first, let's pull up the curtain and let's minimize. And I was watching Rumble, and we're not even going into the chemtrails and the toxic fog. There's air pollution out there. And one day we will do jet exhausts, and we will look at them because it is a topic. What the heck? So anyway, I'm not going to show this video because it just goes on for a very long time, and all it shows is that there are scientific articles on it, and people have had this idea for a very long time. So that isn't anything new or anything newsy. we need to see this for ourselves. So I'm going to get our Miro, and we're going to be looking at smart dust. Actually, what we are going to be looking at, if I can get this up high enough, what we are going to be looking at is smart dust, but it's a little different than what you think. Smart dust. That may be a catchphrase, and it may not even be the right one. One of the things that smart dust is mentioned in conjunction with is nanosensors. And we all know how good those things are. So that's one. And the question is, say yellow. I'll get a fresh one. How do they work? How well, and what's in them? Okay, that's another question. Let's get a different color for that. And again, I have no system. What I do is just change colors when we change things. So this is a who, what, why, where, but it is a little different. How well do they work? And another thing I'd want to know is, these are a lot of hows. What is in them? And I also want to know, we're running out of colors here. Their use in medicine. I guess we'll put that down here. And we get another one. Their use in other fields. And these can go together. I'm going to shift this around a bit. And over here we would probably have, and again, this isn't an orthodox who, what, why, where, when, because these are mostly hows. As in, how the heck does this work? I would start with the nanosensors. I might pair them with dust, and there's two places I would look. And I don't know who's here tonight. I'm going to check. Hello, Enigma! Are you busy tonight? Because we can throw some of this in the garbage pan. Since you're around and you are an engineer, I'm going to propose we go to IEEE. The other place we could go, because it is full of Medline-y goodness, is Medline. Quite obviously, anything can be used medically, and it often is, which is why we have all these Luddites out there scared, you should excuse the expression, shitless. So Medline, we can use IEEE or Medline or ACM, which is Association for Computer Machinery. These are small ors. This is not, we're not going to do them all at once and put them into a circle. These are not Boolean ors. So we can start at IEEE and we can try with the smart dust and see what we get. What I'm hoping is that we don't get nanosensors that are sensing dust. You could get tied up in real knots with words. So let's get a Google page, and we're going to look at GSU Library. I still have access. We're going to go in. We're going to scroll down to databases by name and click I, because we're going to IEEE. Explore. This is one of, now we don't have a lot of engineering databases. I mean, I can't do InSpec or Compendex. So this is as close to an engineering database as you get. And we're going to try Smart Dust. And and see, keep it in quotes as a phrase, and see if this is something that gets used before we do anything else. Clockless asynchronous data modulator, ADC for smart dust applications. Cooperative beamforming in smart dust, getting rid of multi-op communications. Intelligent operators for localization of dynamic smart dust networks. AC logic family for smart dust and IoT applications. IoT is Internet of Things. Simulation applications for sleep-wake, probabilistic forwarding of protocol for smart dust environments. Okay, I see a lot of the computer mechanics behind it, but that's not my answer. So we're going to change this. Let's go back. This likes smart dust, but it doesn't do it the way I would think I'd want it done. So what I would probably do, and you can cut in, I'm going to keep my squawker open. Okay, you're going to be the second topic. I can hunt for an alarm clock some other time. There. I would think we would probably want to do, and you can correct me because I'm not the best of the best here. This is way outside my area of expertise. You're dealing with what we call an intelligent lay reader here. And what I might do is something like this, smart dust. And I want to monitor something with smart dust, so I'm going to do medical. I could do other ones too. I might want to do, I would think agricultural, but agriculture? I might want to do civil engineering. Again, you probably quality control. You can tell I was doing quality control. I could think of a number of things we could monitor with smart dust. Probably environmental feels a little vague. I might try crops. I might try livestock. You can probably think of some things we could do, some better things we could do. But right now, I'm gonna get my squiggly. Squiggle, squiggle. We could try any of these and all of these. Could try ecological too, for that matter. And we can try them in turn. That's what the squiggles mean. And A, N, D. And this is how we'd run it, and we'll see what they do. And again, we could think of like 1,000 of these out here. Quite literally, but we want to get towards the use of it. So what I would do is smart dust and medical. And we can have everything on top of the screen because I can take this and there we are. Diagram, statement. And we run it and see what we get. And we hopefully get in somewhere that's decent. Exploring benefits of using motes to monitor health and acceptance survey. A mote is a dust mote. Let's see what our little dust mote does. Now this is 2006, so this is an old technology. Motes, which are tiny wireless sensor devices, smart dust must be a proprietary name, have the potential for transforming the biomedical and healthcare industry sector. Researchers consider motes as prototypes for nano devices built from off-the-shelf technology, also known as commodity-based hardware, which will become a reality in 10 years' time. This is a very old article. We can see who cited it. The biomedical healthcare market is among the fastest growing markets for Wi-Fi and wireless LAN technology. So this is a little too old for us, but we can look for some other stuff. Okay. Ooh, this is also 2006. It would be nice if we could get up to 2021. I'm going to start with 2015. I really don't want these to be so old. Do we do any better? That's again, a computer network, but it's not saying what we're using it for. Wow. There's nothing like yesterday's news, isn't there? Nothing like a typo either. This is what you get when you go live. Okay. Why does it do that? I don't care. We can again play around with this and see if we do better. We're probably a little too general. Do you have any ideas what you might want to try? It could even be something out of my league here. We could try blood. Let's see what happens if we try blood. It didn't like it. What if we made it nanosensors in blood? And that's going to look like, let me get our Miro up here. Miro, when I need you, I need you. Here we go. New one. And here we can take this name out and put in nanosensors. And if they want to monitor blood pressure, I have nothing against that. We can try that and see if, if the name is passé. Let's go. We're getting results. Wireless blood glucose device with database for health assessment and monitoring. Early cancer detection in blood vessels using mobile nanosensors. 2019, much better. Mobility matters at nanoscale, rendering the received terahertz signal power in human blood vessels. Detection of neuroendocrine marker in blood samples using an optofluidic chip. Smart nanosensor networks for bioinjury detection, for body injury detection. Shall we take a look? Nanosensors synthesize the most recent advantages of nanomaterials and biosensing technologies. Injury detection is one of the important areas, somebody did a good job with this writing, of nanosensor applications in healthcare. It is especially, you see we just got a synonym that I didn't see earlier. It is especially useful to the injuries that are more difficult to diagnose at the early stage with traditional medical methods. This paper focuses on the nanosensor networks for human body injury detection. After reviewing recent progress in the biomedical nanosensor development, an architecture is proposed to employ nanosensors to collect bioparameters of the injury part in the human body. Key elements of the architecture are nanosensors, data collectors, medical servers, as well as healthcare providers. Gee, we don't want to leave them out. Major functions on the biomedical data processing are analyzed in the structure with 3 layers: a sensing layer, a networking layer, and an application layer. Each layer conducts different data processing functionalities to facilitate sensing, collecting, and analyzing the vitals. Based on the IEEE nanoscale communication framework, a mathematical model is further derived. And I think I'm in over my head, but it feels good. Okay, so that would be one idea here. Where is our way back to the results? We just have to hit the back. And here we have it for blood characterization. And they have it in HTML and PDF. Let's get the nice looking PDF this time. And again, this, I'm looking for the date on this. I grabbed this so fast I didn't get the date. Is there a date on the bottom? Doesn't say when it happened. Okay, backspace, real quick. 2019. Oh, that's very good. Much better. Okay. Measurements in the field of micro and nanotechnologies are performed under specific conditions in order to obtain high reduction of noise and interferences. In particular, for bio-nanosensing devices, measurements, you would have another synonym, should take into account the impact and instrumentation within the chain allowing to characterize the impact instrumentation within the chain of allowing to characterize bio-nano devices. This paper presents the design of a nanosensor based on the ISFET technology for blood characterization and proposes architectural solutions for its characterization. And again, this is getting way above my pay grade. Not that I see anything here that isn't really 6th grade math. I see a little bit of high school math here. We're so far still in high school math territory. So I always look for the calculus type stuff that comes with it. This is short. It might be okay. These things are actually quite complicated when you get inside them. I love pictures, especially when we're doing this kind of skim reading. And what this sends home is that this is complicated. And you can't just make smart dust by throwing it up. You can't just distribute smart dust by throwing it up in the air. It actually wasn't used clinically. This is just, this is just, how do we say it? This is just, they're building it in the lab and getting an idea to do that. And here we have age of information-based abnormality detection with decay in the human circulatory system. So again, these things don't last either once you set them loose. Let's get this. Detective abnormality. My tongue has knotted today. Untwist it. Detecting abnormalities early by deploying a network of mobile nanosensors within the human body remains a challenging task. Current methods for abnormality detection rely on placing gateways at arbitrary locations. Given the critical importance of timely monitoring and detection in severe infections, relying on arbitrary gateway locations introduces delays in detection. I don't know how long it takes for your blood to get all the way around. In this work, we conducted an analysis of the impact of gateway placement and infection locations on detection time, detection ratio, and average peak age of information. Furthermore, we added decay of nanosensors similar to operations in the human body. We investigated its implications on both the detection ratio of abnormalities and the average PAOI, which I don't know what that means. We employed a Monte Carlo simulation involving 1,000 nanosensors. Again, they're not even putting this in a rat. Circulating in the HCS, human circulatory system, for 500 seconds. And that's not very long. That's less than 10 minutes. They're in and they're out. I guess you excrete them or they just die from wear and tear. And the body eats them. And again, what this is telling me is, again, you can't just sprinkle these down from the sky. You've got to get them in there in the right place at the right time and be there to watch them. You can't just leave them like an RFID reader. So this does tell me a little bit. And here they actually have to place this. There's one by the heart, there's one on the arm, there's one on the leg. So that's telling me something, and I'd have to actually read through this, and I think as you get further into this, the math gets rather complicated. But somebody is doing this work. Do you want to see another field? We have a lot of, do you want to see another field, something that isn't medical? And I always think agriculture, so I'm terrible that way. Let's try nanosensors in plants, or nanosensors and crops. And of course, we could try various crops. I mean, you could get pretty, role of nanosensors in agriculture, 2021. And this is the kind of thing that if I were a technically ambitious little freshman writing for my English 1102 paper, this is good because this is either a review or it's an overview. And I could certainly use a very technical review. And here we have nanobiosensors. Apparently that's a synonym here. Play an important role in revolutionizing the development of diagnostic tools and techniques. The sensors are accurate, efficient, cost-effective in dealing with various food, agriculture, and environmental issues. Some of the sensor applications in agriculture include identification of heavy metal ions, pollutants, microbial load, and pathogens, along with rapid temperature, traceability, and humidity monitoring. In this review study, and reviews are fine if you're writing for English 1102, not so much if you're writing for some kind of engineering course, though you can read the works cited at the end. And yes, I called it a works cited. It really should be a reference list. You don't use that word. That is a word used by Georgia State University Perimeter College students who mostly use MLA for their references in their English classes and don't write that many other papers. We are analyzing the selective nature of nanosensors for the target of molecules with immobilized bioreceptor probes and various specific agricultural applications. So again, these things have to be put somewhere. They can't just be thrown around. These nanosensors have unique characteristics that make them important for the agricultural industry, such as small size, compact, effective, unique, sensitive, and relatively inexpensive. But not as inexpensive as salt or sugar. They're inexpensive compared to very expensive things. These sensors are placed on the leaves of the plant where hydrogen peroxide signaling waves are observed. Plants use hydrogen peroxide inside their leaves to communicate. They send signals that activate the leaf cells to create compounds that help fend off predators such as insects to fix them. Nanosensors consist of nanoscale particles such as nanoscale wires, high sensitivity to detection, carbon nanotubes, high surface area, thin films, nanoparticles, and nanomaterials from polymers. These sensors detect change in the conductance when a semiconducting carbon nanotube is exposed to certain chemicals. In our review study, we are analyzing the application and role of nanosensors in agriculture and crop production. Thus, nanosensors play a vital role in crop production and promoting the concept of sustainable agriculture, and will be discussed in this study. This needs a bit of an editor, but I've read worse. I have definitely read worse. So this is kind of what we'd be looking for. And again, here we're doing precision agriculture. Here we're doing phosphate nanosensors, which you want that in the soil. And here they're looking for zinc nitrate contamination in the aquaculture industry. Metal-based green synthesized nanoparticles, boon for sustainable agriculture and food security. And we only have 5. But we could play around again, and this time we would just put a bunch in. Yeah, you could do an endless complex one. And I don't usually teach it because nesting is hard. And here we've got 2. Here they're using it for food safety. That's kind of nice. Okay. We can see how this works in Medline as well. You want to run over to Medline tonight? Oh, drones in agriculture, all over the place. And drones in surveying, out the wazoonie. Those things are, I mean, I see this when I'm reviewing for RCL. You know, what do we do with drones? Can we send a drone out there to picture? They take automatic pictures. They take this photogrammetry and use it for surveying. That's a big one. That's a big one. Sure, let's head over to Medline and see what we get with our Medline-y goodness. Okay, I can just switch this to M. You have this where you are, I am almost certain, because Tinker would hate it to pieces, but unfortunately, EBSCO has almost a monopoly, and they sell this. And SpringShare has another monopoly. This is SpringShare we're looking at. It's hosted on Amazon. And this here is, SpringShare built this. Most of these are coming through EBSCO. SpringShare provides the persistent links. Let's open this up and I'll show you what we got. This is Medline. And we can again start the way we started before. Smart Dust okay. Wow, that's new. And that's 2024. We just threw that at the wall and got an environmental one. Drone-based localization of hazardous chemicals by Smart Dust turns these guys on their ear. Let's grab this for the heck of it. And then we'll go hunt for some better stuff. Here we go. And if you hear a noise in the background, I have neighbors who skipped out. I don't know for certainty that they skipped out, but they said they were leaving and left a lot of stuff behind, including they had like a religious garland over their door for an Indian holiday. They left because they just took off. And I don't know how they did that because they broke their lease. I'm pretty sure they broke their lease. I mean, I know when they moved in, and they were here less than a year. And there are a bunch of young guys. There's a bunch of young girls upstairs. They all go to school together. Anyway, that's them in the background. And I'm the nasty old lady that watches everything. Okay, the distribution of tiny sensors over a specific area was first proposed in the late 1990s, so it's even older than what they said in that video. As a concept known as watching the stove, because we do have a cat that likes to break into things. As a concept known as Smart Dust, several efforts focused primarily on computing and networking capabilities, but quickly ran into problems related to power supply costs, data transmission, and environmental pollution. To overcome these limitations, we proposed using paper-based confetti-like chemosensors that exploit inherent selectivity of chemical reagents such as colorimetric indicators. In this work, cheap biodegradable passive sensors made from cellulose could successfully indicate the presence of hazardous chemicals, e.g. strong acids, by significant color change. A conventional color digital camera was attached to a drone, could easily detect this from a safe distance. Collected data was processed to define a hazardous area. Our work presents a combination of the smart dust concept, chemosensing, paper-based sensing technology, low-cost drones for flexible, sensitive, economic, rapid detection of hazardous chemicals in high-risk scenarios. We got a couple of, we gotta take us back to our original craplet here. So we kind of know that they have different uses. They have more than 3 names at least. They can be made of paper. They can be made biodegradably. We don't really know how they work. We may know how well they work. We're getting in that direction with what we're finding. Okay, let's go back. Detailed record. And I want to get into this record and see what they're doing for subject headings. And of course they didn't put any down. Bummer. We'll find another one that has subject headings. Integrated smart dust monitoring and prediction system for surface mine sites using IoT and machine learning. Editorial, smart dust, micro and nanoscale devices for highly integrated, localized, distributed, smart precision medicine. And I'm watching dates because this is an older idea. A 2-class data transmission method using a lightweight blockchain structure for secure smart dust IoT environments. Okay. Again, I don't see any subject headings. Why I'm not seeing them, I don't know. Okay. I'd like to get this reined in. A lot of this is IoT environments, which would probably be interesting somewhat, but I'm really more interested in it being used for something else. So we can try. Remember what we were trying before with blood? I don't know what else to look for. Heart, blood, nanobio supercapacitors enable autarkic sensor operation in blood. What's the date on this? You always want it new. This is 2021. I'm going to open this, not because I really want the article that badly, but I want the bingo. You see what I see? This time they put it in a creature. They put it in a dog, so they're not just testing it out in the lab. Okay, so we now know what Medline calls these. So I'm going to click this, and I am going to add. This we get from looking at the subject headings. The quotes won't hurt it. I just like it to look a little symmetrical. And if we were doing this in Miro land, let me get a fresh spot for circles. Yeah, there they are. I could hear them in the other house. Hear them right through the wall. Heard them thump again. Thump, 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 thump again. I love the way that works. They keep going up the stairs. Okay. So what we're looking for is biosensing techniques and biosensing techniques. I'd never have guessed this in 1,000 years. And nanoparticles. And again, these things all have their own names. But this is what Medline has decided we should be using. And let me get an and in here. And this is our search. And they are both MMs, which are major meshes. We're letting the database do the heavy lifting, so we don't have to. Yay. And I'm going to run it now that we got it, and let's hope we do better. We could end up with nothing, but we ended up with 1,648. And we probably would like the last 5 years. It's 5 years because we just started 2025. An innovative biosensor using aptamer-gated mesoporous silica nanoparticles for determination of aminoglycosides, antibiotics through indirect lateral flow. Why do we need to find, I guess this is drug utilization. We can open this up and see what the abstract says fully. Okay, aminoglycoside antibiotics are commonly used in both human and veterinary medicine to treat and manage a range of infections. These antibiotics are recognized for their narrow therapeutic window, with an overdose potentially resulting in severe side effects like kidney and ear damage. Hence, the implementation of a quick, precise, and on-the-spot testing method is crucial in clinical settings. In this present investigation, we designed an innovative lateral flow assay utilizing aptamers. I've never heard what an aptamer is, to detect kanamycin, a type of aminoglycoside antibiotic. We prepared mesoporous silica nanoparticles. I guess that's mediumly porous, and silica is from silicon. Functionalized with amino groups, loaded them with morphine, and then sealed them with aminoglycoside aptamers. The complex of the gated MSNs and APT was tested using MOP. I think I know what that is. LFA in the presence or absence of kanamycin antibiotics. I think MOP is one of those phototherapy chemicals that glows. Okay. And it displayed a single colored line in the test line for positive samples. So yeah, it is a glowing dye. And their conclusion is, in general, the created LFA system offers a portable, straightforward, and affordable approach for point-of-care identification of kanamycin. So they want to know if somebody's already had it, they can put this in them and it shows it. I never thought anybody would do that. I don't know why. Let's see what we have here. Structured protein probes modified with selenium nanoparticles for 1-minute measurements of SARS-CoV antigen. Interesting. So these are point-of-flow immunoassays. So they take something out of you and let it flow. A bio-nano-engineered platform fabricated from cerium oxide carbon nanoparticles stabilized with chitosan, which is like chitin, for label-free sensing of lung cancer biomarker. Yeah. Enhanced mitochondrial fluorescence imaging through confinement fluorescence effect with a rigid silicon suboxide network. So they're doing all kinds of things. And a self-reporting nanosensor for detecting bacterial exploitation in plants through extracellular DNA. So we've got lots of sensors out there doing lots of stuff. And you probably would mix this with Internet of Things and a few other things if you're doing one of these big, broad sweeps. We never lose my breath. And we're going to take a look at somebody else. Now, he was on the SGT report tonight. His name was Dr. Alfonso Manzo. SGT report is another lovely, another lovely, another channel to which I subscribe. And let's see if we can find them. There we are. And I was kind of curious about this, and I'll let you hear get a little flavor of it. Move it. I'm gonna bring up my curtain and minimize. I'm gonna let you get a little flavor of this. I was looking at the satanic information technology. We're not going to watch all of this. God knows we're not.
Capable of recognizing it, and that's the real difference between people like you and them, the normies.
Yeah, based on frequency and wavelength and electromagnetism and resonance. And those signals are actually even more powerful than the chemicals that your body makes and can cause physiological changes inside the cell. They were finding this stuff out in the 50s and 60s. So when people today laugh at some of this frequency medicine, they, oh, that's new age or witchcraft. It's like, well, the government's been using it for years on you, and anyone who has a cell phone, you're using the technology that was developed.
May sound like a bridge too far for some, that they're not human, but that would explain their complete and total lack of empathy, wouldn't it? Because nothing else explains it to me. Nothing else explains.
Okay, what he was saying tonight is that there's always a boogeyman. The big pharma psychopaths, whatever they are, they are like 100 names, have this demonic nanofog that they are releasing that creates diseases because it has nanoparticles in it that have agents that adapt to your body and make a new disease for you. And it's usually a chronic disease. I don't make this stuff up, and it's easy to laugh. But, remember last night we're all swimming in toxic soup? Just a question of where the worst parts are? We're swimming in toxic soup. Now, I am going to let you see who this guy is before we go looking at the toxic soup. There's a really good, easy way to do the toxic soup search. Because this guy is right. The air is full of nasty nanoparticles. And they're not really nano-sized, they're more micro-sized, but they are tiny. And they're not very healthy to breathe. And there's nanoparticles. I'm doing the outside ones first tonight. You'll see why in a second. Particulate, they call it sometimes. It has a lot of names. I mean, this is real. The name I'm going to use is PM 2.5. Particles of 2.5 microns or less, which is 2,500 nanometers instead of micrometers. It's they're pretty tiny, and we know they're not exactly the healthiest thing to mess around with. So And we could put lungs, breathe into our lungs. Cancer could also be carcinogenesis. I'm going to go get us an and put our squiggles in. And we could even do this on the big box at the library. So, without the story of the boogeyman and diseases, yeah, there is indeed a nanofog out there. We just don't call it that. So let's have a look-see. And that's one way to think about this. There's another way too, but let's do this one first. We're going to do just a standard library search this time. And what we're going to do is PM 2.5 and health, as in health effects. The and has to be all in caps. It is an operator that gives you the overlap between the sets. If we do this a lot, it's just a tool that is sitting in the top of the toolbox. This could go in either direction. We run it and we hope for the best. And since most of us live in either Canada or America who watch this stream, and we know there are places in India that are simply disgusting with air pollution, we're going to go to all filters and fix our geography to be United States. And we're going to make our time the last 5 years. And you can see here, dynamics of PM 2.5 and network activity during extreme events. Short-term exposure to low-level ambient fine particulate matter and natural cause. Cardiovascular respiratory morbidity among U.S. adults with health insurance. Case time series study, 2024, British Medical Journal. Let's get the linked full text. Again, this is not anything anybody's covering up. It just isn't. And if we wanted this, we could get all the way in. And we need to make this bigger. And it says here, a large number of epidemiological studies have consistently reported that exposure to ambient fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, is associated with increased risk of morbidity and mortality. According to the Global Burden of Disease Study, exposure to PM 2.5 accounts for an estimated 7.6% of global mortality and 4.2% of global disability-adjusted life years. In light of this extensive body of evidence, the World Health Organization, which our new president wants to take us out of, recently introduced an ambitious new air quality guideline limit in 2021. Those who might have something against us, are going to live somewhere where there isn't so much pollution. And we've got more here. Long-term exposure to wildland fire smoke, PM 2.5, and mortality in the contiguous United States. the association of short-term increases in ambient PM 2.5 and temperature exposure with stillbirth, racial and ethnic disparities among Medicaid recipients. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Toxic soup, folks. Racial and ethnic disparities in the association between short-term days and weeks and ambient fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, and temperature exposures and stillbirth in the United States have been understudied. A time-stratified case crossover design using a distributed lag nonlinear model was to estimate stillbirth odds due to short-term increase in average daily PM 2.5 and temperature exposures among 118,632 Medicaid recipients from 2000 to 2014. Yes, they're crunching big data here. Disparities by maternal race, ethnicity, and zip code, level of socioeconomic status were assessed in temperature-adjusted model, and a 10 microgram per cubic meter increase in PM 2.5 concentrations was marginally associated with increased stillbirth odds, but not at 0 to 6 days. And it goes further on, but scary stuff. Very, very scary stuff. Of course, what our friend here talks about is something called foglets and nanofog. If I can get way back to the beginning, I can show this to you. Come on. Let's try here.
At Health and Human Services with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Folks, the time has come to take humanity back, and Dr. Alfonso Manzo will help us expose the satanic agenda behind our current health system. Buckle up. Dr. Manzo, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Ah, doing great. Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Well,
I
thank
always
you so
enjoy
much.
watching some of your show. So,
Oh, well, I didn't even know you were familiar with me. I appreciate you coming on. My thanks to Days of Noah for helping me get introduced to you. I know you've been on that show. And
yeah.
I just want to tease for the audience today a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, folks. Do we have health freedom in this country? I think it's been clear to everybody since the COVID lockdowns and the mandatory vaccination push in 2020 that no, we don't have health freedom. But are we on a pro-human timeline now, as I've been saying? Well, if we were to flip a coin, I would say yes. We'll get Dr. Manzo's thoughts on where we are in this timeline. We're going to be talking not only about health freedom today, we're going to be talking about the satanic agenda and the war on humanity, folks. We'll also be talking about the fog, the nanofog, as Dr. Manzo describes it. By the way, Dr. Robert Young will be back on the show shortly. He has analysis of the fog. Some of the residue from the fog, guys, has been captured and tested by Dr. Robert Young, and it contains nefarious things. More on that with Dr. Young, but Dr. Manzo can speak to it as well. He's talked about nanofog. Where should we begin, Doc? I have so many questions to ask you. Do you want to start with nanofog, or should we talk about the timeline we're currently on? Because I definitely want your ideas. Are we on a pro-human timeline? Are we finally there?
Oh, that's a good question. We could start with either one.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then.
But
In
you're probably
regard
suffering from the fogging that they get hit you with, right?
Yeah, well, I got sick. And by the way, we
Oh,
lived through the fog for 3 days, and I didn't have the presence of mind to shoot video of it because it
yeah.
just struck me as being, out of the ordinary, but perhaps normal. It was anything but normal. I've never seen fog like that. It was oppressive fog for 3 straight days. But let me start with this. Where are we on humanity's timeline? Bioweapon vaccines versus nutraceuticals and holistic healing. Big
Mm.
farms and big pharma versus make America healthy.
Let me see if I can find it, because it's really easier if I go hunting for it. There's a picture. I can't find the picture. I'm not even going to attempt it for a whole host of reasons. But he has a picture of it, and he talks about it as foglets and says that's the name of a demon, and he calls it nanofog. And I said, all right, we're going to do this your way. Let's look for nanofog. Okay, I'm going to skip the slop at the top. Here we have utility fog, also referred to as foglets, is a hypothetical collection of tiny robots. Nanofog, humidification, foggers. So there are lots of ways you can do a fog. If you want to fog a room, whatever. I don't know what a ULV fogger is. But they're used for spraying water and oil-based liquids. This isn't what we're looking for, but this guy up here might be. And this is kind of what I came up with. Something called utility fog, also referred to as foglets, is a hypothetical collection of tiny nanobots that can replicate physical structure, such as a self-reconfiguring modular robots. The term was coined by John Storrs Hall in 1989. Hall thought of it as technological replacement for seatbelts. The robots would be microscopic with extending arms reaching in several directions and could perform three-dimensional lattice reconfiguration. Grabbers at the ends of the arms would allow the robots, or foglets, to mechanically link to one another and share both information and energy, enabling them to act like a continuous substance with mechanical and optical properties that could be varied over a wide range. Each foglet would have substantial computing power and would be able to communicate with its neighbors. And if we go down here, you will see and you've got papers that he wrote and more papers that he wrote. This is by John Hall J. Storrs. John J. Storrs Hall. John. That's how he uses his name, so he's J.S. Hall. And J. Storrs Hall, its original concept, the utility fog, consists of swarms of nanobots, foglets, that can take the shape of virtually anything. And he's got a whole description of this. And you could use them instead of painting the walls. You can have a new color every day. You could use them for a floor-to-ceiling TV. You get the idea. And you could extrude new furniture in any form you desire. Your whole domestic environment can be constructed from utility fog. It can form any object you want except food. And whenever you don't want an object anymore, the robots that formed it can spread out and form part of the floor again. And you could make a car out of it and it would form a seat belt. I don't think this was what our friend Alfonso Manzo meant. But this was very old. They probably didn't have the computing to do it. They may be better at doing it today. If you wanted to, you could search for let's make some space, please. Let's make some space. And again, we're doing lots of single searches, circle searches tonight, but that's okay. If you were interested in the little foglets in the 21st, well into the 21st century, well, that was 30 years ago. This was a generation ago. They were thinking about this. You might be looking for swarms of nanobots. And we could look for, and we could also, sometimes people call these robotic swarms. They talk about drone swarms. Again, we're getting much larger, but you get the idea. And let me get my pen. Yep, I have better control tonight. Some nights I do better than others. I haven't tried this in this particular format, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how it comes out. And again, we could do this in either direction. I'm going to check everybody in the house again. And I'm an old librarian, so you pry my Boolean out of my cold, dark hands. We're going to just start at the GSU big box. And we got it up here. I'm going to set it up again. And we go in, and we go in, and I'm not interested. I am interested here, and we're going to make those nanobots swarm. Swarming, swarms of, nanobot swarm. Hopefully this will show up. If it doesn't, there's a couple of ways to cinch it up and make it a tighter search. And again, I don't think this is what he's thinking of. He's thinking of nanobots in synthetic biology. But those aren't just floating around in the atmosphere. Okay, swarms of enzymatic nanobots for efficient gene delivery. Okay, let's go, because that is kind of what we're looking for. And that is 2024. And let's see if it lets us in. It looks healthy. Well, this is kind of what he's looking for, but I don't think they're spraying them in the air. It doesn't work like that. And this is Association for Computing. ACS is American Chemical Society Applied Matter Interfaces. That's why you get these really great pictures. I just want the picture to show everybody. The DNA is tucked in here. I don't know what they put in the middle. A PLGA core, whatever that is, and then it has an outside. And there they are swarming away. They come in, they transfect, and out they go. And what I'm guessing, there is a PowerPoint here that we could look at that's a little better, but this will work for now. The outside is urease. ASE. The uri part is like from urine, uric acid. Uric acid is in soluble urine, urea is not. Ase means enzyme. So an enzyme that is similar to urea. Urea is water soluble. This is to keep this little guy water soluble and protect the little guy, protect the DNAs while they're on their way. Remember, things have to dissolve in blood or cytoplasm or lymph or water. All of that's water. And this is going to explain it to us. And we just go very slowly because this is technical material. This study investigates the synthesis and optimization of nanobots loaded with pDNA using, I don't know the difference between pDNA versus, maybe plasmid versus regular DNA, using a layer-by-layer method, and explores the impact of their collective motion on transfection efficiency. Okay. The nanobots consist of biocompatible and biodegradable lactic co-glycolic acid, polylactic co-glycolic acid. Glyco means sugar. Poly means many. Lactic is like lactic acid in milk and lactose in milk. It's similar structure to lactose. So they are polylactic co-glycolic acid, PLGA nanoparticles. So these are sugar nanoparticles, a kind of sugar, not glucose, which is in our bodies, or sucrose that is in our sugar bowl, but a milk and a glycolic acid, a muscle sugar like glycogen. And it's an acidic form of that. So they change they swap out some of the hydrogens for OHs and Os. And that's how you get an acid, an organic acid. So that much I can suss. It's an acid based on sugars. It's a sugar acid polymer, and they make it into a nanoparticle, and they are powered by a urease enzyme enabling autonomous movement and collective swarming behavior. In vitro experiments were conducted to validate the delivery and efficacy of fluorescently labeled nanobots using two-dimensional and three-dimensional cell models, murine urothelial carcinoma cell line. So these are nice little immortal cells from mice. And spheroids from human urothelial bladder cells. So these are bladder cancer cells. And the reason you want to use cancer cells is they are immortal. So you can just, keep them going. Swarms of pDNA-loaded NBs showed enhancements 2.2 and 2.6-fold in delivery efficiency and 6.8 to 8.1-fold in material delivered compared to inhibited particles. So these spinny little things get where they're going. The absence of fuel in 2D cell structure and the absence of fuel in 2D cell structure. Additionally, efficient intercellular delivery of pDNA was demonstrated for both models, quantifying and visualizing the expression of EGFP swarms of nanobots exhibited a greater than five-fold enhancement in transfection efficiency compared to the absence of fuel in a 2D culture, even surpassing libofectamine, 3000, a commercial transfection agent. Swarms also demonstrated an up to 3.2-fold enhancement in the amount of material delivered to 3D spheroids compared to the absence of fuel. Their successful transfection of 2D and 3D cell cultures using swarms of LBL, layer by layer, PLGA, polylactoglycolic acid, nanobots holds great potential for nucleic acid delivery in the context of bladder treatments. Now, if you're treating something in your bladder, it's inside your body is full of water. You're aqueous. This isn't floating in the air. And if we look at the materials and methods, you'll see everything is wet. Design and characterization, I'm looking for the methods. Okay. And so they went and looked at their swarming methods in vitro. For these experiments, we placed 2 microliters of nanobot dispersion in the center of a 3 milliliter Petri dish. The dish contained either PBS control or 100 millimeters of urea solution in PBS. And I don't know what PBS is, but I know we have a urea solution, which tells me this is aqueous. It's in water. So nobody's shooting this into the atmosphere. But yes, you can make little nanobots swarm. And yes, they are being used for drug delivery, but not shot into the air. And we got more here. Selective actuation and tomographic imaging of swarming magnetite nanoparticles. These have iron in them. And again, we get another one to open. These are all chemistry journals. Those chemists are scary people. And this is our swarm of nanoparticles swarming away. And micro and nano motors have seen substantial progress in recent years for biomedical applications. However, and by the way, the reason you would be using urease nanoparticles is they're sitting there in a pool of urine on their way into the bladder cells. What's in your bladder but pee? Gotta have peace swimmers. But here we have micro and nanomotors have seen substantial progress in recent years for biomedical applications. However, these three grand challenges remain: high velocities to overcome the blood flow, and again, these things have to flow in water, spatially selective control to enable complex navigation, integration of medical tomographic real-time imaging methods. That's why they sometimes put iron in these things. To acquire feedback information. Here we report the combination of active magnetic matter and a medical imaging technique, namely magnetic particle imaging, MPI, which addresses these methods. We synthesize 200 nanometer, that's a tenth the size of our PM2.5s, magnetic nanoparticles, and observe a macroscopic collective effect in a homogeneous magnetic field with a rotating field vector. The nanoparticles form a millimeter-sized cloud and reach speeds of 8 millimeters per second. This cloud is imaged selectively and steered with an MPI scanner. Our experimental results are supported by a model that highlights the role of the Mason number of the particle's volume fraction. So, and the height of the cloud. And the cloud is it would be in liquid and be guided by a magnet, so it's not floating around in the sky where you accidentally breathe it in. It's okay to fear being poisoned, but swarm intelligence strategy for diagnosis of endogenous disease by nanobots. This is from Oyster, which is an open access place. We'll take one more look. And again, the ones you might release in the sky are different. The toxic soup in the sky is something else. It's garbage. This is fancy stuff, and it's not floating in the air. An ambitious long-term goal of medicine is to make analyses and deliver drugs selectively at cell level. We haven't gotten there yet, Alfonso. In particular, and this is 2013, ideal drugs should be able to travel through the vasculature, reach the intended target at full concentration, and there act selectively to work on diseased cells and tissues, only without creating unintended side effects. And this goal is represented by nanoparticles. And this is a little old, so I'm going to make sure we're logged in. That'll also get us to some of our more of our paywalled content. And for heaven's sake, we really want the past 5 years only. And it's okay that we don't have very much. Here we have opportunistic network behavior in a swarm, passing messages to destination. Phototactic movement of battery-powered self-charging robot swarms. And again, these are a little bigger. But those engineers do some scary stuff. No denying it. I'm just waiting for our full text to. Here we go. This is IEEE. In we go, and this will make it bigger, and it may have some good pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. In biology, phototaxing is one of the many forms of directed motions that organisms can exhibit. If stimulated by light, these organisms can move towards or away from the source. In this paper, we present an algorithm that is reliably capable of moving a swarm of virtual robots away from a light source, all while the individual virtual robots are incapable of determining the direction and origin of the light source. The individual agents cannot generate phototactic behavior by themselves. Instead, this is realized through overall emergent behavior of the swarm. This paper explores the algorithm to produce phototactic movement in swarms of virtual robots. The algorithm is developed so that the robots in a swarm of any size can execute it in a decentralized fashion without the need for globalized control or communication between them. We explore two different sets of virtual robots, one with self-charging and one with battery-powered characteristics. Now, these are probably macro size. In rigorous testing and evaluation, we find that the swarm's behavior and performance with regards to moving away from a light source varies strongly. And it doesn't have a date on it. On the bottom, it may have a date. Doesn't have a date. 2020. Okay, we have more swarming. And here we have enzymatic nanomotors. And again, these get inside the body. But the ability to move around in the air and the ability to move around in the bod are two different things, because the bod is aqueous. Enzymatic nanomotors harvest kinetic energy through catalysis of chemical fuels. When a drop containing nanomotors is placed in a fuel-rich environment. So our urease-powered cells in P are a good example. Remember, your P is a urea solution. They assemble into ordered groups and exhibit intriguing collective behavior akin to bioconvection of aerobic microorganismal suspensions. This collective behavior presents numerous advantages compared to individual nanomotors, including expanded coverage and prolonged propulsion duration. However, the physical mechanisms underlying the collective motion have yet to be fully elucidated. Our study investigates the formation of enzymatic swarms using experimental analysis and computational modeling. We show that the directional movement of enzymatic nanomotor swarms is due to their solutal buoyancy. What? They're solute and they're buoyant. What does that? I know what buoyancy is and I know what a solute is, but what is a solutal buoyancy? Yikes. Let's do a quick one here. I need space. I just need a little one. And here we go. Solutal buoyancy. Oh, that looks great. Pull it. Looks better. And we need a definition. I know what the two things are, but I don't know what happens to them when they get together. And I'm usually half decent at sussing out words. Let's get Google. I'd like to get Bing, but Bing has too many images. It hurts to look at it. And again, the and is implied, but I'm putting it in anyway just to show everybody. And I don't want this. Okay, that I don't want. I'm going to change this to Wikipedia. It's not helping. Okay, we'll live with the slop for now. Here is the link. And it says solutal buoyancy refers to the upward force exerted on a fluid due to variations in solute concentrations causing density differences within the fluid, which in turn leads to movement or convection when gravity is present. Essentially, it's a type of buoyancy driven by differences in the solute. So the solute bounces around and floats up a little bit. Okay, that's as close as we're going to get. Sounds half right. Okay, we investigate various factors that impact on the movement of nanomotor swarms, such as particle concentration, fuel viscosity, and vertical confinement. We examine the effects of these factors on a swarm's self-organization to gain a deeper understanding. In addition to urease catalysis reaction produces ammonia and carbon dioxide, accelerating the directional movement of active swarms. So again, this one's going to be moving around in P, not air. If you're set up to move in P, you're not set up to move in air. And when they're talking about self-assembling nanobots, my guess is they're talking about these little guys swarming in the petri dish or in your bloodstream or whatever. They are not talking about, I don't know what. They're not talking about dust. Dust is one thing. These little guys swimming in the pee are another. And yes, they swim in the pee. But I guess they wear gloves in the lab, and there are grosser things. I cleaned litter pans today. And I have two very patient assistants who are off somewhere sleeping as they wait for me to put their pans back down and refill them with nice fresh litter. It's nice to be in an apartment that doesn't stink. It was getting really disgusting in here. So we've gotten that far. And again, I am half decent at sussing words. I am confident. I have had years of reading difficult material. I know how to parse things. By the way, this is a very prestigious journal.